Hey everyone, how's it going today? Welcome back to another third stimulus check unemployment benefits extension update. So we actually have incredibly great news to share in today's update that some of you guys may have already heard. Now granted, we also have a lot of other news that happened over the weekend, so I'm sure there's going to be something new for almost everyone. But the biggest headline, probably as all of them to really start off, is that Indiana, as some of you guys know, which essentially was the first state that opened up their lawsuit to try to bring back their unemployment. The incredibly great news is that Indiana has now brought back, and they've now won their lawsuit to bring back unemployment for now. And I think it's really important to mention that we're going to talk a little bit about that, because at this current time the story is that the lawsuit in the case is still going on. So the case has not closed yet, but the really great news is that the judge has ruled that at this current time, until they come up with some kind of decision, it's back, and it's going to be continuing on. Now, we do have a lot of updates about a lot of the other states. I did also already talk about some of them in one of the videos I made last week, which I believe is literally just called New Lawsuits, and I'll put it at the very end screen if you guys haven't checked it out. But the general idea is, as some of you guys know, if you guys have been here for a while now, huge thanks is that in one of the previous videos I made, I talked, and this is, by the way, before Indiana even opened their lawsuit in general, we talked a little bit about how I think that one of my personal hopes and prediction is that if one of the states is able to maybe try to open a lawsuit, it's less, obviously, it would be better if we can win the lawsuit, but I think it's that just by simply having the lawsuit go on, it could potentially maybe at least prolong the situation so we can stay on the unemployment longer. So it's much more about just being on it and at least making the attempt. Of course, winning is the goal of it. But if you guys have been here for a while, huge thanks if you guys have believed all the way through. I know sometimes in some of these videos we put a little bit of a personal touch to it, and I know some people are just here to just listen to absolute factual stuff, which we do try to balance, but I think it's important to know is that in anything related to politics, a huge part of it is going to be talking about things that happen in the future. And when you're talking about things that happen into the future, because it hasn't actually physically happened yet, it can't be 100% factual. Part of it has to be based off of just personal opinion, personal gut. Of course, we try our best to try to find the balance. But in today's update, I really just want to run through about what's been going on there, what this means for a lot of the other states, what's going on in a lot of the other states, and then really just all the information to kind of catch up. So as always, before we begin, remember to smash the like button, because it is at least I think so, pretty great news overall. Consider subscribing and hitting the bell if you guys are brand new here, and so you guys can get similar videos like this. And also, if anything breaking comes out, huge thanks, especially if you guys have been a believer throughout this entire thing, all through. Of course, it's just really happy to kind of have as many people around as can be. And as always, feel free to comment any questions, thoughts about, honestly, just really anything at all. And actually, maybe feel free to comment down if you have any particular information that's going on in your state about what might be going on there, because there's a lot of things that different states are doing right now, but some of it is still very under the radar. And I think at the end of the day, it's also so other people in your state can hopefully at least know as well. So with that being said, let's get this video started. So what's going on right now in Indiana, which is probably the biggest headline news of everything in the world of lawsuits and unemployment, is really that just over the last couple of days is that the judge has officially made the announcement that they believe that ending the unemployment early is actually in violation of the law. So at this current time, what's going on is that if you happen to be Indiana, they've now officially reinstated or returned back the unemployment so it can continue in the meantime. Now, I think it is really important to notice is that anything can still change because the lawsuit isn't closed right now. The general timeline of what's really going on right now there is that the governor and slash state essentially, they announced that they were going to end unemployment. The people, so basically us, or just essentially the people that are actually on unemployment, they opened up the lawsuit and sued. Then it went to the judge. The great news is the judge has now officially added an extension. So now all of the unemployment is now coming back. I believe at this current time, though, the case is still going on because now a lot of people on the state/the governor's side is still trying to fight it. So what's going on now is that they're trying to fight to reverse the decision and take it again, actually. So that's the reason why I think it's important to be on guard. Now, the really, really great news I will say is that Judge Hanley, who is essentially the judge in Indiana, who made the decision to bring back unemployment at this current time, I believe is that he is siding with the people. At least it looks more like he's siding with the people at this current time. So basically you, us, everyone that's on unemployment. Of course, at this time, because the case is still open, we don't know what the state/the governor is going to plea or what they're going to bring up. So it's important to notice that until they officially close the case, at this time, I think it's still important to really follow through. Maybe if you guys happen to be brand new here, consider subscribing. Another reason to subscribe if you guys are interested in follow-up videos if something particularly really ends up happening. Now, in a lot of the other states, the other great news is that there's now also a lot of other states that have now come up to try to bring up their own kind of lawsuits. For example, in Texas, and I know because a lot of people here happen to be in Texas, supposedly is that they just, and I mean like really just opened up now their lawsuit to sue Governor Abbott about ending unemployment. So we don't know what's going on there because that lawsuit just physically opened. I do know in Maryland, for example, that's another state that I believe that just literally recently brought up their lawsuit. I think the story at this time is that the lawsuit in both Maryland and in Texas it kind of literally just started. In Maryland it relatively just started. I believe the story is that we don't know what the final answer there is, and keep in mind is that there is a little bit of a variety between the different states, but I do believe what's going on is that the fact that Indiana has now officially returned back or to come back to the unemployment program, even if it's for at this time until some further decision is made, is that it looks hopeful. And I think that's the biggest thing is, of course, we just have to wait till it's actually absolutely official. But of course, at this time, I think there's reason to at least celebrate or feel better about what's been going on right now. Now, in terms of what's going on in a lot of states is that there are a lot of states right now that are trying to either create or have already been this entire time doing some kind of protest or some kind of petition on a very subtle level. And they're kind of at that edge point where at this time there is no lawsuit in those states. For example, Florida is one of them. I know that in Florida, I don't believe there's a lawsuit there right now, but there are protests. There's a petition that's going on, and this applies to a lot of the other states as well. Feel free to comment if you have any information from your particular state, because I'm sure a lot of other people will love to hear it as well. But the idea is that in a lot of these states, even though there is not necessarily a lawsuit at this time, there's a lot of thoughts about opening a lawsuit soon. So if that ends up going through, those states can potentially end up becoming next. And the hope is because keep in mind also is that the fact that unemployment had to end early, it started with one state, which became a domino for the other 25 states that followed. So the hope is that maybe now that Indiana is now doing their lawsuit and is now officially, had their unemployment return back, maybe this can now potentially start a chain. And you already are starting to see it as well, which is the really great news of maybe a lot of other states that potentially, hopefully, at least try to make the attempt to follow along as well. But I think the overall idea is that it's looking very, very bright, and I think that's the biggest thing that I really wanted to share in today's update. I think the most important thing really going forward is that if more states are at least able to open up their lawsuits, obviously, if we're able to win the lawsuit, that's really the goal. But I think it's that just simply by having the lawsuit, especially because right now at this time, as crazy as to think, the actual unemployment, or at least the original end date for unemployment, which was supposed to be the very beginning of September, we're literally about 2 months away, and that is the really, really crazy thing. So I think the goal right now is that if they're able to create the lawsuit but try to extend the lawsuit to maybe last another 2 months, by the time these 2 months go on, then it may not even matter. Now, there is a say is that depending on how the lawsuit goes is that they may force people to pay it back. But I think the idea is that at this time, especially if there's a press of urgency for money, I think that just by having the money at this time and just thinking about about maybe that, going forward when it gets closer to the date. I think the most important thing is to maybe try to at least extend the lawsuit until the actual unemployment is actually supposed to supposedly end. But essentially, that's what I really wanted to share in today's update. So maybe consider smashing the like button if you guys found that relatively insightful, because at least we are finally talking about something more positive. Consider subscribing and hitting the bell. Huge thanks if you guys have been here for a while. And as always, feel free to comment any questions, thoughts about Honesty, or any information as well. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, stay well, and hope to see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much again.